And,
Well, you're looking to me.
and, Stan Adelstein.
Good, how are you?
Are you?
Yeah,
Always let it go. Yeah, but it's or not.
you might ruin the game, right?
Going to big money. Everything.
Sure that.
Yeah, how about you?
Chance.
Good.
Now, all new neighbors over in your area.
I know.
Because I was talking to somebody and I said, well, we used to live on 18th Street. And I said, I was this person, this person, this person.
They're not there?
They moved away. Life changes, doesn't it?
There's one good thing, though, with families now that got some kids, and we have that little park there, and
Yeah.
at night I can sit out there and listen to them holler, and they're just, you know, you don't get to see that very
I know.
often anymore, just see these kids outside playing and.
Oh, I know, Amber Brooks, that lives around the corner from you guys,
Yeah.
said it's the best thing when they're, she did it there, it's this backyard,
I think
in
your
that
training
backyard,
group
it's
is
like you
next.
said, she said they don't make the pipe.
Several different.
No. Right.
Yeah, you know,
About 3 or 4 families, I think,
well, I think at least 4, man, I think I think it's 5,
okay.
and of course I sit there and, like,
He's excited every time.
Todd
he
Hill's
goes
wife,
around.
she came over one day and she said, seen me sitting there, I'd been
I'll go
working in the yard there,
December.
and she said, am I okay? And I said, oh, yeah, I said,
Yeah,
I'm just sitting here and enjoying this. She says, oh, and I says, yeah, you know, these kids, were they making too much noise? No, I says, they're
Oh,
kids.
yeah, because she was children that age.
Yeah, yeah. she was-
Well, they
she's
spend a
over
lot
there-
of time over there
She's
in the
over there
ball.
pitching, so all these.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, she has a line of 5 boys and she pitches out to the field and gets up there.
Well, and then the daughter
And
too.
then the daughter too.
She's in softball, so you know,
And I had two
you know, when we built out there, and probably when you guys did too. You know, I expected that to be a senior area. You know, and what we count one day, we thought there was 30, there was 30 kids in that
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah. Well, they come from all over.
Yeah.
Construction.
I tell Don all the time, I say, there's nothing better than to hear kids having fun.
I know.
You know, they're enjoying it.
And not on their,
Yeah, oh, that was interesting, yeah.
They're over there out hollering
now, what grade did you teach?
No, I.
Fifth
grade.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of my kids are my kids now are.
I gotta tell you, the 5th grade was a pivot grade for me. Yes, it was. Yes, I had an English teacher,
Oh, I've heard that so often.
and he took me aside and he gave me a perspective that carried me all through my life.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, did you thank him?
Oh, I used to, you know, he left, he only taught 1 year. What a blessing I had. But then he went on into private business in Denver, Colorado, and built a humongous accounting firm and everything. He was so successful. But I would writing letter, and once he did reply the first year. You know, after I finished my graduate work and everything, I listened to this letter, what it meant to me.
Yeah. Oh,
And,
good for you.
yeah,
That makes the world to me.
but as I always said, 5th year, boy, that was a pivot year for me because I was headed the wrong direction.
So did you have a lot of trick or treaters last night?
So everything.
Was that all?
Yeah.
We had 107, yeah. We did, just barely.
Barely.
Well, you know, there was predicting cold, so you know, you don't wanna have a lot of that hanging around out. Anyway, but yeah, for 107.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh.
that was great. That was great.
It's one of those
Yeah, yeah.
So I brought me back.
But you know, it was so nice because no matter what the age of the kids were, the parents were hanging. You know, and I thought, that's, you know, this day and age. When we live
Dan, huh?
yeah, we had recognized a couple that were, what, juniors in high school?
Takes about 9 hours.
Then it's time to turn the light out. Good to see you.
Oh. No, you don't want to do the work. You better shut around the background. Talk about the meeting is gonna go. I think we tried to set up I learned so much from those young teachers. Is that right?
Drove the car.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
I don't know. Snow plows out, clean the hill off the road.
Facilities.
Yeah.
You could probably have.
And, you know, I'm not sure.
Well, how you doing? My goodness, haven't seen you in a long time. You know my wife down.
Going to the hill, climbing into Custom State Park. You could make the hill.
Nice, they have. Yeah,
I was
yeah.
calling pickup, you know, just.
I try to go to most.
Went and stopped, pulled up, picked up.
Like that.
And ended up sold to the south of the hill.
Oh, we missed a few, but.
Yeah.
After you made that big climb, on that big hill.
It's,
My legs, behind my legs.
Vernon. Yeah, yeah. He was good.
And then, yes, that would be Jackie, and then,
My nephew, he ended up marrying.
Good, and, those
They were like neighbors.
Yeah.
His mother.
40% of the dairy industry.
Make one of the nephews.
They could not survive without.
That's surprising how fast that.
You ever.
Always the barbecue, yes. Because the man said, I do not know.
That's-
Drives that thing a lot faster.
Yeah. Well.
Very heavily.
Yeah, I grew up.
Read it.
Way up.
One blizzard that I still have shut down.
Am I sitting here?
That's what
Is that close? Yes.
Yeah. But it's about.
How are you?
You pay.
Are you gonna get us?
Yeah.
Small scenes with you, you two have been talking all right.
You don't know that maybe it's better to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
That's probably better. Yeah.
Went up on it.
Yes, barbecue solver.
Hey, Mattis. Let us explain. Nice and warm.
That's very dark. Oh, yeah.
Kind of slippery, huh?
About fine. When next.
It acts like it. How's your fuel line plus?
No.
I got gas at Vermillion.
I'm gonna make you all big.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, my-
And it's been why? You just need the break.
Let it rain.
That's scary talking there, right? What?
My youngest son, he was a boy, he was friendly.
Your volume's off real loud. There's another. Why aren't you still there? I'm playing my song yesterday. That's theory.
Let's mom.
But I ended up taking a photo. Not happening. But.
Give it Friday. Maybe come in right sometime. Welcome.
There's a little bit.
Just have different.
They're telling me what to do, it's okay. No, you
We're gonna have fun.
Now the key.
Yes, yes, we have to,
All right.
if we isolate, it's not good.
Gets me a little minute wrong, do it, absolutely love.
I
went to the volleyball.
I get about it.
All my siblings.
Take turns picking out. They take turns picking out. Yeah. You know, we read some books I would not have picked myself, but I really. Yeah.
Are you reading?
Oh, yeah, I do that. I really don't understand.
I remember most is. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Growing. In the Olympics and when Hitler was just beginning. And the politics, even. And the politics. Right.
We did all that this morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Good crowd again. I'm really excited. We had a good crowd last month's lunch and learn too, and threw me off then. So I'm really glad everybody made it. I'm up here to welcome you to our lunch and learn here at the Vermillion Public Library. Sorry, I'm a little flustered. It's a good flustered, I promise. Trying to think, sorry. This program has been brought to you by the South Dakota Humanity Council. In front of you, you should have some surveys, and if you don't, I'll have some at the end on the counter that you can fill out. We ask you to fill that out just to get good feedback from you guys who come to these events. So just wanted to put that out there. And I'm here to welcome Dr. Arley Fadness. Dr. Arley Fadness is from Sioux Falls. He drove down this morning to be here. He is a retired draftsman, clergy, active historian, and author. You might remember him from his presentation on Japanese Fugo balloons here in South Dakota a few years ago. And most recently, his presentation on his book, Capturing the Younger Brothers Gang in the Northern Plains, The Untold Story of Historic Teen Adel Sorgel. So, here to talk about the topic of his next book, please welcome him.
Thank you, Kendra. I'm so disappointed there was no interest in this topic. Thank you all for being here. I'm Arley Fadness, and as Kendra mentioned, I lost my voice this morning, so we'll do my best. Delighted to be here for now the third time. And where'd Kendra go?
I'm right here.
Oh.
I can get you a microphone so you don't have to strain your voice. I didn't know
Yeah,
your
do
voice.
you have a mic?
Yeah.
When you get to be 39, well, your voice has a little trouble sometimes.
We've got a better battery, so should be good.
Testing,
You don't have one?
testing.
Yeah, there it goes.
You do? Is it coming through?
Now it is.
I think you have to go.
Hello.
Yeah, I think you have to go.
All right. Very good. Well, I've been working on this project, and I have a book out. March, my publisher says. So if you're interested in more of what I have to say, it'll be, I'll have a sign up here. You can sign up and I can send you get a copy or mail it to you or have it at the library, whatever. That's my commercial. I'll get right into it. And I know we have lots of experiences that you will share, and I want to give time so that we can hear what you have experienced on this unique and popular topic. So I'll follow my notes here. And obviously the topic is strengthening our democracy, which is one of the 5 pillars of the South Dakota Humanities. And I chose this one, strengthening our democracy, as it relates to remembering our history. And there's one little piece of history most people have forgotten, they're not known about. And I'll be sharing that now. And as I said, some of you have experiences and stories to tell in your own experience about this. No, I'm not getting, are we hearing him?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I don't hear, but anyway, so. Lines from the New Colossus by poet Emma Lazarus, chiseled into stone, now appears on the pedestal of the Liberty, Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor. And here's what the lines say, and you recognize these. The lines plead, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. And boy, did they breathe free, those huddled masses. Stepping off ocean liners and onto American soil, it's estimated that between 1892 and 1924, 12 million immigrants sailed into the ports of New York and New Jersey through that golden door. Very quickly, the huddled masses began to participate in a democratic form of governing, like anything like they had experienced coming from whatever country they came from. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, I'm ahead of myself. One group, however, in the history of the United States did not fully embrace this one true welcoming democratic ideal. Who was it? Well, that's what you hear about. The Ku Klux Klan in America, and the big surprise is that the Ku Klux Klan, of course, came to South Dakota as well. I stood in line in Webster, South Dakota. Who knows Webster? Betsy knows Webster. I stood in line at Bear Boom's restaurant one day, and Bob Bartles was the author. He was selling his two new books called Millennium 1 and Millennium 2. And so he handed me the two soft-bound books, and Bob had been a weekly columnist for the Reporter and Farmer for many, many years. And so he collected some of his favorite stories and put them in these books. Well, he took my money and I took the books and I began to read. Oh, what fun it was, because coming from Dane County, South Dakota on a farm, told about jackrabbit hunting. He told about fishing at Lake Enemy Swim. He talked about, then he talked about Lawrence Welk, who started his band in Webster, South Dakota. And of course, Myron Florin. You remember, Myron was from Roslyn, and he was early on a member. His second cousin is married to my second cousin, by the way, which is, but anyway, Myron Florin. Also from Webster is this fellow, you know him?
Yeah.
Of course, he's Tom Brokaw, and his mother, Jean Conley, was a good friend of my mother, Nora Fadness. So always had that connection. Tom Brokaw coming from Webster. Well, I was having a great time reading and enjoying the memories and the thoughts, and all of a sudden I came to chapter 51. When I got there, my hair stood up on my head. Chapter 51 was all about the Ku Klux Klan in my hometown. I was born in Webster, in the same hospital that Tom Brokaw was born in. And I was raised among good, God-fearing citizens of Dane County. And now Bob, in his book, tells me that the Ku Klux Klan had arrived in Webster. I'm going to quote now from his columns in the Reporter and Farmer. Paul writes in his book, April 23rd, 1925, a speaker for the Ku Klux Klan held forth at the Opera House Monday evening to a good-sized crowd. Tuesday night at about 11 o'clock, a fiery cross was burned on the lower end of Main Street. It was a large cross and illuminated that section of town for quite a while. A second cross was burned Wednesday night on the north end of Main Street. Oh, I didn't get move on here. Another entry that Bob had in his book was from July 16, 1925, and he said this: thousands see KKK meeting, many states represented in gathering to witness session of Klan. The largest crowd which ever gathered in Webster attended the demonstration of the Ku Klux Klan on the hill east of the city Monday night. There was no way to check the number of cars or people who attended, but it is generally conceded that in the neighborhood of 2,000 automobiles were present, which would mean at least 5,000 people. In the string of cars were noticed number of plates representing many different states and most counties of South Dakota sent representatives. And then Bob also has another quote. He says this: the speaker of the evening held a large crowd in front of the platform for more than an hour and received good attention. His topic was Americanism and covered thoroughly many things every citizen should bear in mind. Perhaps the greatest attraction for visitors was the display of fireworks and the burning of crosses. Now, these aren't actual, these are substitute, these are symbolic only, what I'm talking about. He goes on to say the display of fireworks, while not particularly large, was very beautiful, and burning 3 Ks and 3 crosses presented a spectacular sight against the dark sky about midnight. And I might add, and Betsy mentioned it too, the scars of those burning crosses are still on the east hill, right east of Webster. I was up there and I asked Dwayne Anderson, the curator there, where they were, and he said they're over there, but I didn't have time or whatever, I didn't see them, but I take his word for it that they're there. The scars of those 3 KKs and the 3 crosses. Well, reading Bob's book, I was stunned, like a jolt from an electric cattle prod. I leaped into my Honda SUV and I headed West River. I arranged an interview with retired Professor Charles Rambo at his home in Rapid City. He was a former professor at Black Hills State University, and he is one of the foremost experts on the Ku Klux Klan in South Dakota. Chuck Rambo described his awakening this way. He said, one night in the 1970s, his mother, living in Sturgis, cleaned out his grandparents' closet. She gave him what he thought was some old rags, or cloth that could be used for rags. Well, the rags, the wrinkled cloth, was actually his grandfather's Ku Klux Klan initiation robe. Chuck's Rambo's own grandfather, Hugh Catton, he was a judge in Meade County, was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Chuck told me he was stunned. And upon further inquiry, he learned that both grandparents were members of the KKK back in 1921. Well, Charles Rambo suddenly had a thesis for his master's, topic for his master's thesis, and his search began immediately. He interviewed people who were members of the Black Hills clans. He interviewed people who had family who were members of, or who had been targeted by the Klan. And the more interviews he did, the more people he found that remembered the Klan or had some sort of connection. His research kept going, and he learned that every community in the Black Hills had a Klan organization. In Spearfish, it was the Queen City Clavern. In Lead and Deadwood, it was the Mile High Clavern. And we'll get to, oh, yeah. He had a photo of that clavern in Sturgis. In Rapid City, the Gate City Klan, it was called. Well, Rambo's grandfather, Judge Hugh Catton, belonged to the Key City clan in Sturgis. And Rambo said he remembered his grandfather as a devout Anglican Irishman, deeply disliked Catholics. And one of the main clan's tenets, as you know, in this state, was anti-Catholicism, besides being anti-Black and anti-Jew and anti-Asian and anti-immigrant. And they were pro-nativism or they were pro-white supremacy. Well, the Klan began infiltrating the community of Lead and Deadwood. Their motivation stirred by a hatred and a mistrust of Chinese laborers who worked in the mines. Eventually, that hatred focused on the Catholics. This was a conspiracy theory on Catholics, and the KKK feared that the Pope was plotting to take over the country. The KKK activists marched several times at St. Martin's Academy and threatened that private Catholic school in the Black Hills. Students were trained to hide under their desks in case of rocks being thrown through the windows. Well, relationships with the Ku Klux Klan and the Black soldiers from Fort Meade didn't go well. One night at a community dance in Sturgis, the Klansmen erected 3 crosses on the hill between town and between town and the post. They wrapped those crosses in burlap. They put kerosene on them and lit them on fire. Well, the Fort Meade. This is Fort Meade. Fort Meade soldiers decided it was time to send a message of their own. And so they liberated 2 .30 caliber Browning water-cooled machine guns from the fort's armory and sent them on a hill across from the Klan gathering. And they sent several long bursts of machine gun fire over their heads. And of course, the Klan, they had some handguns they shot back, but they scrambled for cover between the trees and the boulders immediately. There was no match for machine gun. The local Klansmen then realized that their threats and intimidations could go only so far. Well, then came October 16th, 1921. 4 shots rang out and echoed through the valley of what's called Poor Man's Gulch outside of Lead, South Dakota. Father Arthur Belknap, popular Catholic priest, is shot dead. 4 .45 caliber bullets knocks him to the ground. He bleeds, he dies in his priestly vestments. Father Arthur Belknap was making plans to establish a recreation center in the basement of his church. Well, the Klan opposed this. They thought he was using it as a center to recruit and convert young people to Catholicism. Father Belknap ignored the Klan's objections, and this is what happened. He was wakened in the middle of the night and under the premise of giving someone last rites. And this had happened twice before. And when he went out, there was no one there or at the place. 3rd time now he went out, a man walked with him. And well, first of all, he went out to start his car, and his car had been tampered with, and so it would not start. And so he began to walk, and another man walked with him. And Belknap is ambushed. This man that's with him has a hammer, gives him a blow on the head, and also 4 shots in the chest. Well, the KKK had so infiltrated the community at every level that no one was talking about it. They didn't dare. There was a reward of $500 that went out for the capture of the killer of Father Arthur Belknap. Well, what happened? The Klan, however, grew in the Black Hills. On November 2nd, 1924, the Sturgis Mile High Klan met in the empty loft of a large barn in Sturgis, just one block east of Junction Avenue, if you know that area. 186 Klan members and 64 initiates and 20 bystanders gathered in that place. Here they are again. Well, there was Chuck said this story. He said a 12-year-old child was playing downstairs from in the loft. She was curious as to what went on, and so she climbed up the stairs and looked in and saw this gathering. And the Klan member caught her, and he threatened. He said, "If you ever tell anyone, and I ever find out, I'll cut off your ears." Well, and Chuck Rambo, his collection of artifacts, KKK artifacts, included this charter. Interesting thing happened with that charter. He acquired this from a Mrs. David Treber, who was a 4th grade teacher in Sturgis. One day, her husband, who was an electrician, was tearing into a house, tearing down a wall, and there in a 6x8x8 area were all kinds of paraphernalia of the Ku Klux Klan. And that's where he got this particular. He also got other things. Here's the Klan's tiniest Bible. And this says KIGY, you see on the bottom, and that stands for Klansman, I greet you. That's one of their slogans. There was a story that a single stenographer, she was a telephone operator, and she was targeted as a threat to the men of Rapid City. And so one source says that she was a woman of ill repute. That's just one source, but she and another friend, they laughed at their faces. Well, the Klan abducted the 2 women, put them on a train to Farmington, South Dakota. And once in Farmington, the KKK stripped the women and tarred and feathered them and stuck them back on the train. And these women were never heard of again. Well, the home state mine, here's some more of the paraphernalia that Chuck Rambo got out of that cache. And this is their symbol, the cross, the blood. And let's see. Well, yeah, this is also a man and myself. One of the most important movies of the day that helped to accelerate interest in the KKK was this movie, The Birth of the Nation. And I found out it was shown in Brookings and many places in the state. And it was, in fact, even Woodrow Wilson had a private showing of it in the cabin. And he said it was one of the most remarkable pictures that he had ever seen. Well, it glorified the KKK. They were the saviors of this poor damsel in distress. And they came riding on their horses and saved her. So what a story. It's from the book also, Birth of the Nation. Well, that also was found in that cache. And women also were members of the KKK. And here's an application form for that. Now, we're going to get to the Home State Gold Mine. Have anybody heard of that? Of course. The Home State Gold Mine, the largest gold mine in South Dakota, was opened from 1876 to 2002. Well, it served as a recruitment center for the KKK. Those applying for jobs at the mine were forced to disclose their race, their religion, and their ethnicity. In fact, this practice was ended in South Dakota in the 1930s. Well, there was a pushback in Deadwood. In the middle of 1920s, the Deadwood Fire Department had had enough. They published a note saying, if you are a Deadwood fireman to their members, this is published. If you are a Deadwood fireman, we won't just kick you out. We're going to scratch your name right out of the records because you're a terrible American. So there was pushback too, to the KKK. Well, one notable, you may know this person, that was, this is the line yet. One person, his name was John Gutson de la Borglum. You ever heard of Gutson Borglum?
Yep.
He blasted and chiseled out Mount Rushmore, the shrine of democracy. He was also a member of the KKK. He also served on the KKK National Council. In 1927, when the work on the monument began, a conclave was held where the three crosses were burned. You'll find Borglum's involvement in the biography by entitled 6 Wars at a Time by Howard and Audrey Schaff, which is sponsored by the Center for Western Studies. Well, we're getting to that. But in a more recent book, Mount Rushmore, an Icon Reconsidered by Jesse Lerner, the author writes about the sculpture more critically. Borglum, who believed deeply in American ideals, was also a high-ranking member of the Ku Klux Klan, a rabid racist. This Danish genius sculptor believed in the Aryan race, us. And he believed that we were absolutely superior to all other races. Borglum held on to that main tenet of the KKK, white supremacy, until the day he died in 1941. Well, on September 24th, 1924, 500 Klansmen in white robes and masks, a few riding horses covered in white sheets, marched down Sioux Falls. The Klansmen marched 2 abreast with arms folded down Main Street to 12th, east of Phillips Avenue, north to 8th Street, and west of Minnesota Avenue. A fiery cross 8 feet in height with a wooden crossbar 4 feet long, wrapped in burlap and saturated with tar, was seen burning at Phillips Avenue and 14th Street near what is known as present-day Lyon Park. Red railroad torches were nailed to each end. Bruce Blake passed away, but he, in his brief history of the KKK in Sioux Falls, quotes an incident in the October 3rd, 1924 issue of the Argus Leader. It says, a cross was burned on the lawn at 1515 South Grange Avenue. Apparently 4 autos filled with masked and hooded men wearing white robes stopped in front of Jimmy Wood's house at about 10 a.m. and p.m. Several men erected a large cross in the front yard, set it ablaze, and then fired gunshots. The Klan denied this Klans-like incident. Their alibi was that the robes had been locked up in the Clara headquarters in the Strand building at 120 North Avenue, Sioux Falls, that the Klan did not have a meeting. Well, there was an excuse, I guess. Here's the gathering of the Klan in Sioux Falls. We think that that's on a hill or a glassy area right east of Sioux Falls, we believe, when that took place. Now, moving on to other towns. April 2nd, 1925, the Canton Sioux Valley News carried an article entitled "Contemplate Erection of a $25,000 Building." And the article told about the rapid growth of KKK in Lincoln County and the need to build a Klan headquarters at South Cedar and 6th Street in Canton. Well, I looked, the librarian there helped me look this up, and we found that it was never happened. But it was their intention to build a $25,000 building headquarters. The Klan burned fiery crosses, held speeches in various places, and this is in Rapid City. By the Duhamel building that's still there. And they appeared in, they waved starry flags and burned fiery crosses near the cathedral in Sioux Falls. They also burn crosses in Del Rapids, Parker, Mitchell, Aberdeen, Mount Vernon, Monroe, Iroquois, Pierre, and Chamberlain, amongst a few. I found these articles in the paper. Oh, excuse me, this is here's Alberto, Elk Point, Canastota, and Lead. A farmer was threatened at Elsister, and there's more details to that. The Fiery Cross newspaper claimed 10,000 Klan members in the Black Hills alone. Well, I'm gonna tell you about this guy. He was a Swede. Any Swedes here? Well, John Peterson was a Swede, and he wrote the history of Clay County. And he tells about an incident that happened before the 1920 battle, was a prelude to what was coming. John Peterson writes about, and I'll do some quoting again, over in Clay County, he tells about two Swedish brothers by the name of John and Peter Norberg. Well, they came home from Omaha. They'd been away at school, and they came back, and they were all excited because they believed the tenets of the APA, that stands for the American Protective Association, very similar to the Ku Klux Klan. And while in the area where they had gone to school in Dalesburg, you know where Dalesburg is? Not too far from here, I believe, north. The folks there were instilled in the folks there that the Catholics in an adjacent county were planning an uprising against Protestants. And they preached that every Catholic church was an armory for the storage of arms and ammunition. When at a given signal, the Catholics would rise up and kill their Protestant neighbors wherever found. Well, people got pretty riled up when these two boys told that story that they believed. And so a meeting was held at the Dalesburg schoolhouse to discuss the situation. That's about 14 miles north of here. And one of those who was particularly excited about the situation was Andrew Powell. Andrew testified that he had seen a black enclosed wagon hauling ammunition from Garryowen to Beresford with a cross marked behind it. People were thoroughly aroused. A committee was formed. The committee would conduct further investigation and help make provisions for everybody's protection. Rifles and ammunition flew off the shelves of the local hardware stores. Folks got armed and already got ready. But nothing happened. So there's that kind of a thinking that was needed, that was ripe for some fertilization, so to speak. Moving to another subject, as one I was interested in as a former clergy, churches and the KKK. One slick strategy that the KKK employed when they came to a new community was to befriend the local pastor. A pastor would be urged to accept free membership in the Klan and to become an officer in the local clavern, and many did. Some even abandoned their flocks to become full-time organizers for the Klan. Often when the Klan found a sympathetic minister, its members would appear in the middle of a Sunday service. Oh, excuse me, that's John Bauer, the founder of the APA. Here. Clad in their white robes, they would march solemnly down the aisles in front of the pulpit where they presented the church with a donation of $35 or $50. Well, Bob Bartles reports what happened in Webster. He writes September 10, 1925. The Methodist Episcopal Church, which I believe to be that church, which has been moved to the museum area right on Highway 12. That's the Morton Episcopal Church. He writes this: the Methodist Episcopal Church Sunday evening was attended by about 25 members of the Ku Klux Klan in full regalia. One of the members, in a few well-chosen remarks, presented to the church a beautiful silk U.S. flag as a mark of respect to B.D. Fish, the only surviving veteran of the Civil War in our city, a member of this church. He also presented to the church a substantial sum of money for its kindly attitude toward the Klan. The address by Reverend Bullock was entitled 100% American, Who Are They? And this was an able effort and much appreciated by the large audience. Appropriate music added much to a very fine program. End of Bob Bartle's quote. Well, the same thing happened in the Methodist Church in Valley Springs, in Spearfish, Sioux Falls, and the Congregational Church here in Beersford. Unsuccessful attempts were made by the local Ku Klux Klan to infiltrate the Rowena Methodist Church just east of Sioux Falls. And that, by the way, I found out is no longer there. It is now a house. And we visited a man who lived in that house that is remodeled, of course. Well, so at this place, the Ku Klux Klan went and they rang the bell, because ringing the bell was a call for emergency. And they only did that mischief, that prank, to call attention to their presence. Well, here's the problem. When you marry Protestantism and patriotism into an unholy union, you get a messy mix. You get what I call Have you ever tried to mix cake, popsy cake, and also a can of soup? Well, that's what you get. Or you also get this. Neither jackrabbit nor antelope, right? Well, this is what was happening. The Protestantism and patriotism were all mixed together into one. But my theme of strengthening our democracy by highlighting and reaffirming the democratic principle of the separation of church and state, the mixing of patriotic and religious ideals and rituals and activities did become foundational in the 1920s Ku Klux Klan movement. And so today, as we speak, there seems to be a surge at various times, and this is an unpolitical presentation, between what's called Christian nationalism, which is also an unholy marriage between certain groups, Christian groups, and political action. And it seems to be a violation of the separation of church and state. So in every age, there is a call to vigilance to recall history's 1920s, lest we repeat past follies. The Ku Klux Klan paid lip service to all the ideals of 100% Americanism. Motherhood, are we for that? Yeah. Chastity, temperance, clean motion pictures, decent literature. One popular broadside summed up the Klan's professed principles in these words: every criminal, every gambler, every thug, every libertine, every girl ruiner, every homewrecker, every wife beater, every dope peddler, every moonshiner, every crooked politician, every pagan papist priest, every shyster lawyer, every KFC, Knights of Columbus, every white slaver, every brothel madam, every Rome control newspaper, every black spider is fighting the Klan. Think it over. Which side are you on? Well, that's one of their pitches. Like things I think we probably need. Well, so the hot question today in our South Dakota is, how do we teach civics and history? So what do we do with the sordid parts of history in America? Well, what do we do with the good, the bad, and the ugly in our history? Well, when Sir Peter Lely was commissioned to paint English statesman Oliver Cromwell in 1630, his image, Tradition has it that Cromwell said, "Mr. Lady, I desire you would use all your skill to paint my picture truly like me, and not flatter me at all, but remark all those roughnesses, pimples, warts, and everything as you see them. Otherwise, I will never pay a farthing for you." Well, True and honest history records the good, the bad, the ugly. The good we celebrate. My goodness, we have so much good in this country. The bad and the ugly we learn from. So there we go. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm going to jump over here to democracy and its ideals cannot be taken for granted. Liberty, equality, self-governance, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, the right to vote. These are our treasures just beyond the golden door. A strong democracy expects all of history to be taught and learned and remembered, the good we celebrate, the bad and the ugly we learn from. Well, the KKK began to decline in 1926 to 1930. As far as I know, and could find out, there are no organized collaborators in South Dakota today. There appears, however, to be lone wolves that are appearing from time to time. Charles Randall, the professor, he warns, the Ku Klux Klan has not forgotten about South Dakota. The Klan has attempted to take over the Sturgis motorcycle rally on at least 3 different occasions that I know of. In 1987, the former Ku Klux Klan Grand Wizard, David Duke, attended the rally promoting the Klan. That's one of their symbols. In 2000, Ramble's wife, Susan Ramble, met a group of bikers at Sturgis wearing lapel pins with the letters AKIA. AKIA. She inquired innocently of one biker, "What did this mean?" And the man says, "A Klansman I am, AKI." Bikers wearing this pin are seen every year at their rally. Well, one Easter morning in 2011, homes and businesses in Hill City, South Dakota, the town which is known as the depot for the 1880 train, were blanketed with flyers entitled "What the Klansman," urging people to join their order called the Traditionalist American Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. I lived in Custer for 20 years. I moved there 3 years ago to Sioux Falls. But living there 20 years, during those 20 years, I went down to my mailbox one day and here was one of these folders, flyers sitting at my mailbox. And I found out, and I know the young man who was the KKK, and he always wears a pistol on his hip as he goes about. Why, I don't know, but, and whether there's more or not, but he seemed to be, I thought, a lone wolf. Well, Traditionalist American Knights of the Ku Klux Klan boldly asked, "What is a Klansman?" In 10 paragraphs of the KKK flyer outlined the purpose of a Klansman. In part, it announced, "A Klansman is a person with a definite purpose," that's good, purpose in life, and is unyielding to his devotion to that purpose. He has sworn to cast away his own selfish desires in order to provide the needs of others, to fight until victory against all forms of tyranny is won, to preserve our race, heritage, values, and true Americanism as they understand 100% Americanism. My neighbor in Custer, she was a Native American, Melanie Stoneman. She's from the Rosebud Reservation, and she, her husband, and 6 children had been recipients of not just one KKK flyer, but many. Three it was, different times. The question is, were they targeted as Native Americans is unknown. Also, these flyers appeared in McKinnon Park in Sioux Falls on more than one occasion. The Ku Klux Klan's tenets are still around today, unfortunately. Precepts are alive and thriving in sheep's clothing. 100% Americanism, America first, nativism, white supremacy, anti-Semitism. I remember my dad talking with my Uncle Elmer. And they were talking, one day, I was just a kid, about the Jews. And they were complaining how the Jews have all the banks out in the east.
Yeah.
And the Jews run the country. That was their attitude at that time. My dad's a dear man, but I think he missed the boat. This is the back of a card that was mailed to my Uncle Elmer by my grandfather Ole. And on the back was the message, but this was the message on the front. What do you think of that? Well, it brought home to me again and reminded me that racism and prejudices do not belong in a healthy, thriving democracy. I'm about done here. There are 4 hate groups in South Dakota presently, this is according to the Southern Poverty Law Center. Southern Poverty Law Center. They are Amerikaner, which is white nationalism. Number 2 is Patriot Front, white nationalism. Proud Boys, it's a general hate group. PZG Incorporated are the neo-Nazis, and they are in Rapid City. 4 hate groups in South Dakota. Interesting, there are 9 in Minnesota, 24 in Georgia, 28 in Tennessee, 53 in Florida.
Oh my gosh.
So comparatively, we're doing very well. We only have 4. And now the Southern Poverty for All Center, you can debate this. They said there's another new one here, and that's called Moms for Liberty. Have you heard of Moms for Liberty?
Yes, yeah.
They call it that, but you can argue about that. Did our leader carry, I should have shown that to you. There's what I just read.
Yeah.
Someday I'll have to coordinate my slides with my talk. Wouldn't that be great? Would it be helpful? And here we are, Moms for Liberty, and that was an Eric's leader a month ago or so, and I made a copy of it. I thought, ooh, really? Because I know that some of our people are subscribing to that. And so lastly, we remember our history in order to strengthen our treasured democracy. Democracy and its ideals cannot be taken for granted. Liberty, equality, self-governance, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, the press, and the right to vote. These are our treasures just beyond the golden door lit up by the torch of freedom in the New York Harbor. Thank you, and let's take some time now for questions. And also, many of you have very interesting experiences with the KKK in some manner or another. Some of you spoke to me already. Let's hear what you have to say. Yes.
2 quick things, one about Lawrence Welk. The Ritz was a dance hall south of Beersford, where my parents, Hazel and Earl Merrigan, and many people from the Gary Owen community went there to hear Lawrence Welk and Myron Thorne on many occasions. Okay, it's no longer there.
Yes.
Secondly, it might have been because of the information.
Excuse me, can you all hear? Okay.
I'm a teacher, you can hear me, right? It might have been because of the Dalesburg discussion, but my mother grew up on the Greenfield Road, for those of you around Vermillion, and her family was Catholic. South of their farm lived a Protestant family, but they were very good friends. But she said sometime, and I think I'm getting this accurate, probably when she was in high school, there was a Ku Klux Klan parade in Vermillion. And they recognized her neighbor because of the horse he was riding. And the Klan set fire to a cross on the grounds of the Catholic Church, which was put out by a Protestant neighbor.
in this town.
Yes, and I'm not exactly sure when that would have been, and I think I'm getting the story accurate, but she talked about, I think the reason she mentioned it is that they were very good friends, Catholic, Protestant, but he was still a member of the Klan, and they recognized him because of his horse.
Excellent. Another, yes,
I don't remember where I've seen it, but I have seen pictures of Klan meetings here in Vermillion.
I'm sure.
You know what year that would have been?
In my research, I'm sure in my research that there are many that I didn't get access to, but if I had a meeting like this, I could expand my book. I'd take notes. Yes.
Well, many people know the name Stan Adelstein. He's a legislature philanthropist. He's the one that tried to put up $1.2 million to get the dinosaur zoo to stay in South Dakota, but Southby's beat him out. But anyway, he would tell the story. He's Jewish, and he would tell the story that he was born in 31, so I guess this would have been in the 40s. His father was a salesman, and he would accompany him to Belfouche. But he said we always had to be off. We had to be off the sidewalks at sundown because they had a sundown rule, and Jews could not be on the sidewalk. And that just was so amazing to me. And he's a man who just gives and gives and gives to his community. There's no end to his.
Stan is a great guy.
Yep.
Some more experiences or remembrances? Yes.
I grew up in Black Hills between Sturgis and Rapid City. And we would frequently go into Sturgis to do our shopping, etc. And up alongside the hill, going into Sturgis, was a huge KKK sign done in stone. And I knew nothing about the KKK except that. And it has been a memory burned in my mind forever. And I just wonder when it was finally removed. It had to have been in the last 30 years, 20 years, that has finally been taken down.
It's finally been taken down.
Yes,
How do you feel about that?
I'm glad that it's gone.
Yeah.
But the picture is always there in my mind.
Pictures in your mind. I haven't seen a photo of that, but ooh,
I wish I had had one.
yeah. Great story. Yeah, keep going. Yes.
My dad, when he was a teenager, or, early, him and a friend were just, looking for something to do some night, so they went hiking. They came, I don't know, I think it's close to the Bluff Road out there. And they heard some noise, so they went over this and hear the Ku Klux Klan, they're meeting. And they're, burning and shouting and raving and everything. So they were young teenagers, and he said they got real scared. They were afraid that they might come up, but they got close enough to see an actual, it's I don't know if any of you ever watch Johnny Carson, the comedian. Anyway, one night he said the Ku Klux Klan is really slipping.
They're really what?
They're slipping. He said they tried to burn a cross and it wouldn't ignite. So they looked at the material and the guy had sold non-flammable.
You leave it to Johnny Carson.
Good old Midwestern Nebraska guy.
Right.
Yes, he was, yeah.
One thing about John, he donated a real expensive machine to his hospital, I think in Norfolk, for cancer treatment.
Yeah,
So,
he remembers his roots.
it's good to be generous.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. More stories, yes.
Just one comment on the Moms for Liberty, which was an organization founded in Florida. One of the first flyers that they put out, they quoted Hitler he who has the youth has the future. And so, it's.
He alone, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, but anyway, it's interesting that they would, be characterized almost as a hate group. They are in the sense of, my niece is a superintendent in a district in Kansas. And she has a great deal of difficulty with Moms for Liberty on book banning, what should be taught, what should not be taught. And so, well, it sounds like maybe a wonderful ideal. It really does interfere with teaching and the freedom that people supposedly espouse in South Dakota and all the states.
Exactly. I haven't seen, I'm not in the school system, but I haven't heard of where they're teaching Marxism and communism and
CTR.
beg pardon?
CTR, isn't that what?
It's CTR.
Actually, there's no curriculum for that.
Nobody's doing.
Kindergarten
Right.
through high school.
And also,
Race theory, yep, that's a lie.
also the banning of books. In one place, say Mark Twain is out, Yes,
Mark Twain's been banned for years, but, and he does use the N-word, which
beg pardon?
in Huckleberry Finn, Mark Twain uses the N-word, and
Okay.
that's what causes some problems legitimately, so you need to teach it sensitively, but, now I lost my train of thought. Gotta find that. Oh, I know what it was. We haven't mentioned the fact that we aren't directed to teach the good, the bad, and the ugly in South Dakota, that our South Dakota standards that were set up to
Right.
give an honest history of how we have treated Native Americans. It's given all of our celebrations plus our warts. The teachers who created that it was thrown off, and Hillsdale College
Right.
gave us the curriculum that our governor now has insisted that our teachers use. I now get daily emails from Hillsdale College, and it is so scary because it's fear-based, but it's all, the rhetoric is so powerful. It's all based on the classics, which I believe in. It's all pretends to be based on history. And so their arguments are so well placed. I mean, they're dangerous.
But they're a white nationalist group
Yes,
that believes that America is for white Christians.
yes, but you should read their emails. They're just,
Which is why they never should have been adopted here in the first place.
no.
So should we teach the good, bad, and the ugly? Any more times?
I've always found it interesting that the Klansmen were apparently so proud of who and what they were, that they always wore masks.
Good point.
I forgot to change horses.
That's right, yes.
Not to justify him in the least, but a friend of mine, her father was a member of the KKK. And he was very prominent business. This is in Denver, very prominent business. And she never had any indication from him that he was racist or anything. She certainly isn't. But he said that as a businessman at the time, you were pretty much required to be a KKK member.
Oh, believe it.
Yes.
Back in the 70s, I spent some time in Pier at the Commission on the Status of Women meetings, and they had people from all over the state that were part of the commission. And they said, and I can't remember which birthday, which anniversary for statehood was coming up. And these women from West River said, well, yeah, and they're talking about reviving the KKK to celebrate. And I'm so glad you're doing this kind of thing, because I had no idea that, I was really startled at that, as everybody else was.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, one more.
I don't know that this is necessarily related to the Ku Klux Klan, but certainly related to the kind of people that were in Deadwood at that time. But I'm an expert on the death penalty in South Dakota. And of the 2 blacks who've been executed in South Dakota, one was in Deadwood, and the crime occurred, the trial occurred, and the execution occurred all within 30 days.
Wow. What do you think about that?
Well, it's certainly there was no appeal, there was no
Just
consideration of, that's pretty arbitrary.
Yeah, right,
And now it takes 25 years, but
yeah. Okay, I want to thank you for your attention and you can fill out this. This helps the South Dakota Humanities. And I'll tell you how to fill it out. EXCELLANT plus. No, be honest, because they want honest feedback. And I have a few books for sale up here and let's see. Oh, if any of you are interested in my book, which of course has a lot more than you heard today, please write your name on this and your address and when it comes out, it'll be out, they say in March, but knowing publishers, it'll probably be April or May, but it's coming. It's called The Ku Klux Klan in South Dakota. It's the name of it. So I'll lay it up here and you can